believe that your father's been gone for almost 40 years?
I can. It's a lot. Yeah, 86. I don't feel like he's gone.
They were Hollywood's golden couple, Desi Arnaz and Lucille Ball. Together, they built I Love Lucie, a show that changed television forever. But behind the laughter and flashing cameras, their marriage was crumbling. Fame, jealousy, and heartbreak tore apart what once looked like a perfect love story. They had 2 children, Desi Arnaz and Desi Arnaz Junior, who grew up seeing both the magic and the pain. Now, at 72, Desi Arnaz Jr. is finally breaking his silence, sharing the truth about his famous father. Join us as we look back at their legendary love and what their children are revealing now. The love story that changed television forever. Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz's love story began like a scene straight out of a Hollywood movie. The year was 1940, and both were working on the film Too Many Girls. Lucille was already a well-known actress, confident and established in her career. Desi, on the other hand, was a young Cuban musician just starting to make a name for himself. Their worlds couldn't have been more different. Yet, the moment they met, something clicked. During one of their first conversations, Desi asked Lucille if she knew how to rumba. When she said no, he replied, "I can teach you quickly, but only on condition that you go out with me tonight." That bold move marked the start of a whirlwind romance. Lucille later said, "I never fell in love with anyone quite so fast." He was very handsome and romantic. Their chemistry was obvious to everyone on set. One of their co-stars, Eddie Bracken, said, "You could tell the sparks were flying with Lucie." It happened so fast, it seemed it wouldn't last. Despite everyone's doubts, they couldn't stay apart. When the movie ended, their relationship continued, even though their busy schedules kept them apart for months. They often spent hours on long-distance phone calls, and Lucille once estimated those calls cost around $29,000. A small fortune at the time. But love makes people do wild things, and for Lucille and Desi, distance couldn't stop what they had. Then came a twist in their story that no one expected. A daring elopement and a fast love. By November 1940, both Lucille and Desi happened to be in New York City. Desi was there for a show at the Roxy, while Lucille was giving a magazine interview. During that interview, she told the reporter it would never work, referring to her relationship with Desi. But life had other plans. Not long after, Desi proposed, and the two decided to elope. On November 30th, 1940, they secretly married in Greenwich, Connecticut, just 6 months after meeting. Lucille later called it the most daring thing I ever did in my life. She added, "I knew I shouldn't have married him, but that was one of the biggest attractions." Their love was passionate, fiery, and full of energy. Even Lucille's friends didn't think it would last long. "My friends gave the marriage 6 months," she once said. "I gave it 6 weeks." But against all odds, their relationship grew stronger. They may have been different in many ways, but together they created something magical. Their story was about more than love. It was about creativity, ambition, and breaking boundaries. That same fire and chemistry that started on the movie set would soon take them to television screens around the world. And what they created next would change the entertainment industry forever. Building Desilu and making history with I Love Lucie. In 1950, Lucille and Desi took a leap of faith. They founded their own production company, which they called Desilu, a mix of both their names. It wasn't just a company, it was a dream they built together. 1 year later, that dream turned into one of the most famous shows in television history, I Love Lucie. The show premiered in 1951 and became an instant hit. It wasn't just funny. It was groundbreaking. Lucille Ball was the star, playing a bold and funny woman who always found herself in crazy situations. At the time, it was rare to see a woman take the lead in a show, but Lucille proved she could carry the whole thing with her charm and talent. Desi Arnaz played her husband both on and off the screen, adding warmth, humor, and his Cuban flair to the mix. His role brought something new to American TV, a Cuban-American man in a major role at a time when diversity on television was almost unheard of. Together, they didn't just make people laugh, they made history. But their journey wasn't always smooth. When Lucille became pregnant with their second child, the show faced a major challenge. In the 1950s, the word pregnant wasn't allowed on TV. Many executives didn't want a pregnant woman appearing on screen at all. Still, Lucille and Desi refused to hide it. They insisted on including her real-life pregnancy in the show, using softer terms like expecting or with child. The result was an episode called Lucie Goes to the Hospital, which became one of the most watched episodes in television history. It proved how powerful and relatable their storytelling was. Their chemistry, both real and scripted, was unlike anything audiences had ever seen. I Love Lucie ran for 6 seasons, from 1951 to 1957, and won 5 Emmy Awards. But behind the laughter and success, their marriage was slowly beginning to fall apart. Children, legacy, and lasting bonds. Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz's love story may have faced heartbreak, but it also gave them their greatest joys, their 2 children. Their daughter, Lucie Arnaz, was born on July 17, 1951, and their son, Desi Arnaz Junior, was born on January 19, 1953. Both grew up in the spotlight, surrounded by fame and creativity. Despite the cracks in their marriage, Lucille and Desi always made sure their children felt loved and protected. Lucille once said, "The marriage wasn't good, it was just long." But it wasn't disastrous, because you can't have 2 beautiful children and call it disastrous. That quote summed up the way she viewed her life with Desi, complicated but full of meaning. Their daughter, Lucie, followed in her mother's footsteps and became a successful theater actress. She met her husband, Lawrence Luckinbill, during a stage production, and they married in 1980. Together, they raised 3 children and built a beautiful family. Lucie's success didn't stop there. She won an Emmy in 1993 for Lucie and Desi. A home movie, a touching tribute to her parents. She also recorded audiobooks of her parents' autobiographies, keeping their voices alive for new generations. Desi Arnaz Junior also built a name for himself in entertainment. In 1971, he won a Golden Globe for his role in Red Sky at Morning. Later, in 1987, he married Amy Laura Bargiel, and the couple adopted her daughter. Together, they even restored the Boulder Theater, showing that his creative spirit extended beyond acting. Over the years, Desi Arnaz Jr. continued to act and produce, earning an Emmy nomination for the I Love Lucie 50th Anniversary Special. He also took part in Being the Ricardos, a project that honored his parents' legacy. Despite living a quieter life in recent years, Desi Arnaz Jr. remains close to his sister, Lucie. In August 2024, Lucie posted a photo of them together on Instagram with the caption, "Desi is alive and well, my friends, just likes to stay a bit undercover." Her words warmed fans' hearts, reminding everyone that the Arnaz family still carries the light of I Love Lucie within them. The beginning of the end. Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz were once the perfect picture of love, but behind their success and laughter, their marriage was falling apart. By the late 1950s, their relationship was strained beyond repair. Both were busy building their careers, and their schedules often kept them apart for long periods. Desi Arnaz was dealing with his own personal struggles, including heavy drinking and rumors of affairs, which made things worse. Lucille tried to hold everything together, but it became too much. During their divorce proceedings, she admitted in court, "It got so bad that I thought it would be better for us not to be together." Bart Andrews, a biographer who wrote several books about Lucille and I Love Lucie, said that by 1956, Lucille confessed to him that it wasn't even a marriage anymore. He explained, "They were just going through a routine for the children. She told me that for the last 5 years of their marriage, it was just booze and broads. It was heartbreaking for a couple who once seemed so deeply in love. The connection that had once made them unstoppable partners on screen was slipping away in real life. Yet, even with all the pain and disappointment, they managed to separate with grace. They didn't let bitterness take over." Their daughter, Lucie Arnaz, later said, "They had a very successful divorce. They never said bad words about each other, and they stayed friends until the day they died. That says a lot about who they were as people. Strong, mature, and still bonded by something deeper than marriage." Lucie also added, "It was a fantastic romance that got even more passionate and friendlier after they were not married to each other anymore." It's rare to hear that about a Hollywood couple, but for Lucille and Desi, even ending their marriage couldn't erase the love that once existed. A love that never faded. After the divorce in 1960, Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz went their separate ways, but never truly drifted apart. Each found new love. Lucille married comedian Gary Morton in 1961, and Desi married Edith Mack Hirsch 2 years later, in 1963. Yet, despite their new marriages, the two stayed connected through their children and their shared television legacy. They had built I Love Lucie together, a show that was not only a success, but also a piece of their hearts. The laughter they created on screen had been born out of their real-life chemistry, and that connection never faded. William Asher, the director of I Love Lucie, told people in 1991, "Maybe I'm the romantic, but there was a great, great love there. There really was." Desi was very unhappy about the breakup, and I think she was too. I don't think either one of them ever got over it. Those words perfectly capture what so many close to them believed, that even though their marriage ended, their love never truly did. Their relationship was complicated, full of ups and downs, but it was real. They cared about each other deeply, even when life pulled them in different directions. Lucille once said that doing the show together was their way of spending time as a family. She explained that Desi's work constantly took him on the road. So creating I Love Lucie was a way to keep them close. That plan didn't save their marriage, but it did give them something eternal. Their legacy. Every time the world laughed at one of Lucie's funny moments or Desi's charm, it was watching a piece of their love story unfold, and that bond stayed strong long after the cameras stopped rolling. The last goodbye. Even after their divorce, Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz's bond never truly broke. They continued to talk, to care, and to love each other quietly from afar. Decades later, their daughter Lucie Arnaz shared a touching story that revealed just how deep that love ran. In an interview with People in February 2022, Lucie spoke about her father's final moments. Desi Arnaz was dying of lung cancer, and Lucie was by his side when her mother called. She passed the phone to her father, and what followed was a moment that showed the true heart of their relationship. I could hear her say, "I love you." She said it 5 times in a row, Lucie recalled, and he was nodding and saying, "I love you too, honey." What makes this moment even more powerful is that it happened on November 30th, their wedding anniversary. "He died in my arms," Lucie said softly. None of us realized it at the time, but the day they last spoke was November 30, their wedding anniversary. Their story came full circle that day. Lucille and Desi first said, "I do," on November 30th, 1940, and 46 years later, they said, "I love you" for the last time on the same date. Desi Arnaz passed away on December 2nd, 1986, at the age of 69. Lucille Ball followed a little over 2 years later, dying of cardiac arrest on April 26, 1989, at 77. Lucie reflected on their legacy with deep emotion. She said, "They did the show so they could be together, because my dad was always on the road, and they never saw each other. So my parents thought, well, this is going to save our marriage, and we can have a family." It didn't save their marriage, but it gave the world something beautiful. "They gave the country this wonderful creation," Lucie said, "but they never got what they wanted, to stay together. They loved each other until the end." Her words perfectly capture the heart of Lucille and Desi's story. They may not have had a perfect ending, but they had a love that time, fame, and even distance could never destroy. Their love story may not have lasted, but its legacy continued through their children, especially their son, Desi Arnaz Junior. Before he could share the truth about his father years later, it's important to understand where his story began and how his life was shaped by the fame and chaos that surrounded his parents. The birth of a Hollywood legend. Desi Arnaz Jr. was born on January 19, 1953, at Cedars of Lebanon Hospital in Los Angeles. His arrival wasn't just a family moment, it was national news. His parents, Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz, were the biggest stars on television, thanks to I Love Lucie. The country was already following Lucille's on-screen pregnancy, and then life and fiction lined up perfectly. On the same day, Lucille gave birth to Desi Arnaz Jr. Her character, Lucie Ricardo, gave birth to Little Ricky on TV. It became one of television's most famous moments. The excitement was so huge that baby Desi appeared on the first-ever TV guide cover with the headline, "Lucie's $50 million Baby," showing just how deeply America loved the Ricardos. Desi grew up surrounded by cameras and attention. Still, his mother tried to keep some normalcy at home. He went to University High School in West Los Angeles and stayed close to his sister, Lucie Arnaz. Both spent time with actor Richard Keith, who played Little Ricky on I Love Lucie. He became a family friend and taught Desi how to play the drums, a talent that soon shaped his future. By age 12, Desi Arnaz Jr. was already chasing music. Along with Dean Paul Martin, the son of singer Dean Martin, and Billy Hinshaw, he formed the band Dino, Desi, and Billy. They weren't just kids messing around, they became real teen idols. In 1965, their songs I'm a Fool and Not the Lovin' Kind became hits and made Desi a star in his own right. For the first time, he stepped out from behind his parents' fame. Sadly, in 2021, Billy Hinshaw passed away, leaving Desi as the group's only surviving member. Music opened doors, but Desi quickly proved he could act too. In 1968, he and his sister joined their mother on Here's Lucie, playing her children on screen for 6 years. Around the same time, he made guest appearances on The Mothers-in-Law and The Brady Bunch. In 1971, Desi starred in Red Sky at Morning, winning a Golden Globe and showing he could handle serious roles. 2 years later, he led the musical Marco, based on explorer Marco Polo. It didn't succeed at the box office, but it gave him valuable experience. In 1974, he starred alongside Gregory Peck in Billy Two Hats, proving he could stand beside major Hollywood names, carrying the legacy forward. By the mid-1970s, Desi Arnaz Jr. was working non-stop. He appeared on the streets of San Francisco and even co-hosted Saturday Night Live with his father in 1976. During one sketch, He played Ricky Ricardo, while Gilda Radner played Lucie. A funny and affectionate nod to I Love Lucie. That same year, he starred in Joyride alongside other Hollywood offspring like Melanie Griffith and Robert Carradine. In the 1980s, Desi starred in Automan, a short-lived science fiction series that gained a small but loyal fan base. But his most meaningful role came in 1992 when he portrayed his father in The Mambo Kings. The film honored Desi Arnaz Sr.'s impact on music and television, and Desi Jr. saw it as a tribute filled with respect. One powerful scene mixed new footage with real I Love Lucie clips, letting him act opposite his mother on screen. A moment that beautifully merged their family's history with Hollywood magic. Years later, Desi returned to his musical roots. With Billy Hinchy and Richie Martin, the youngest son of Dean Martin, he formed Richie, Desi, and Billy. The trio performed both old hits and new songs, keeping the spirit of their early band alive. Beyond performing, Desi dedicated himself to preserving his parents' legacy. From 2002 to 2007, he served as vice president of the Lucille Desi Arnaz Center in Jamestown, New York. Though he eventually left the role after disagreements with management, his commitment never faded. In 2007, he and Lucie accepted the Legacy of Laughter Award for their mother at the TV Land Awards, a moment that reminded everyone how much joy Lucille Ball brought to the world. Desi also helped honor his father's music through Babalu, a celebration of the music of Desi Arnaz and his orchestra, performing with his sister and other artists. In 2011, the show was staged at the Library of Congress as part of a tribute to their parents. Then, in 2021, Desi and Lucie served as executive producers for Being the Ricardos, a film retelling their parents' story for a new generation. Through all of it, the music, the acting, and the tributes, Desi Arnaz Jr. has carried his family's story with pride. And now, at 72, as he opens up about his father's struggles and truth, it's clear that his journey has always been guided by love, family, and the legacy that began long before he was born. A family torn between love and fame. For most of the world, Desi Arnaz and Lucille Ball were the perfect couple. They made millions laugh through I Love Lucie, and their love story seemed magical. But behind the curtain, things weren't nearly as happy as they looked. In a new book titled Desi Arnaz, The Man Who Invented Television, biographer Todd S. Purdom explores the truth about Desi Arnaz's life, the charm, the success, and the pain that came with it. The book includes rare interviews with Lucille and Desi's two children, Lucie Arnaz and Desi Arnaz Jr., who opened up about what it was really like growing up in that famous family. Desi Arnaz Jr., who rarely speaks to the press, shared memories that were both emotional and eye-opening. He described his father as a man who lived to entertain, but who also wrestled with his demons behind the scenes. He admitted that his parents' marriage was far from perfect. "It wasn't good for anyone," he said, "and we'll always remember when they sat us down and said, 'Look, things aren't working.' I remember word for word." For the children, that moment was unforgettable. While the world adored their parents' on-screen chemistry, at home, things were falling apart. Their constant fighting, the pressure of fame, and their father's drinking turned their home life into something that was often tense and unpredictable. Growing up in the spotlight, being the children of two of the biggest stars in America, came with its own kind of challenges. Lucie and Desi Arnaz Jr. were born into fame, and they didn't know what a normal childhood looked like. Their parents' work schedule was demanding, and even their family time often happened on set. When Lucie and Desi visited the studio during I Love Lucie tapings, it wasn't always fun for them. Lucie remembered hiding under the bleachers when her mother introduced her to the audience. She didn't like the attention. Desi Arnaz Junior, however, was different. He loved it. He was very much embracing the whole thing, Lucie said. But even with the excitement of being part of television history, their lives weren't as perfect as they appeared. The kids often saw their parents argue and struggle to balance fame and family. Lucie remembered how their parents handled emotions very differently. She said her father could lose his temper easily, but it wouldn't last long. He would get really angry and blow his stack and be loud, but then he'd be done, and it would be like it never happened, she explained. Her mother, on the other hand, was more sensitive. My mother would get personally offended by childhood behavior, Lucie said. She would emotionally separate from you for however long she wanted to. Sometimes days, sometimes weeks. It wasn't easy for children to grow up in a home filled with tension, especially when both parents were constantly under the public eye, but there were still small, touching moments that reminded them they were a family. One story shared in the book described how Lucie and Desi once played with paper dolls made in the image of their parents. Desi's secretary remembered watching them and thinking how strange, yet innocent it was. Just two children having fun, unaware of how unusual their lives really were. The struggle with alcohol and pain behind the fame. Desi Arnaz's charm and success came at a heavy price. While fans saw a confident entertainer, those close to him saw a man struggling with addiction. According to the book, Desi's drinking got worse after his divorce from Lucille Ball in 1960. He tried to keep his personal problems private, but the pain was visible to his family. Desi Arnaz Jr. eventually faced his own battles with alcohol and addiction. In 1981, he checked into the Scripps Clinic near San Diego for treatment. 4 years later, in 1985, his father turned to him for help. Desi Sr. finally admitted he needed to stop drinking, and he entered a rehabilitation center under the name Bill Sanchez to keep things private. "It was really nice," Desi Arnaz Jr. said, "because whatever I was going through, it was paying off. I said, I can't do anything for you, but there's a place that can." He understood that. It was a powerful moment for both father and son, a turning point where they finally faced the truth together. Desi Sr. may have been a star, but fame couldn't fix his pain. His son explained it perfectly. That's when he realized the emptiness at the crest of his success. He didn't stop drinking. He didn't know what the real poison was. This is a temporary life. Those words revealed how deeply Desi Jr. understood his father's struggles. Lucie also spoke about how hard it was for their father to admit he had a problem. She said in an interview, "He was a guy who said, 'I don't air dirty laundry in front of other people.' But he got up and said, 'My name is Desi, and I'm an alcoholic.'" For her, that was one of her proudest memories. "He finally wrapped his head around it," Lucie said, "and I was so very proud of him." But by the time Desi Arnaz began recovery, it was almost too late. His second wife, Edith Mack Hirsch, had died that same year in 1985, and his health was declining fast. He was sick, on morphine. It was bad, Lucie recalled. Even though he couldn't attend meetings because of his illness, he had finally taken responsibility for his life. It showed that, deep down, he still had the same strength and heart that made him who he was. Family secrets and the truth revealed. The book also revealed a surprising detail about Desi Arnaz's controlling nature. When their first child was born in 1951, Lucille had planned to name her Susan after her friend Susan Peters, who had been paralyzed in a tragic accident. She even signed her letters to Desi as Susan and Desi Junior, years before she became a mother. But when the baby was born, Desi went behind her back and changed the name without telling her. When Lucille woke up after giving birth, she said, "I want to see Susan." The nurse looked confused and replied, "You mean Lucie?" Desi had already filled out the birth certificate with the name Lucie Desiree, after Lucille and her mother. Although Lucille was surprised, she didn't argue. The name was, after all, a compliment she could hardly resist, the book explained. 2 years later, when their son was born, Lucille finally got to use the name she'd always wanted, Desi Arnaz Junior. For years, both Lucie and Desi Arnaz Junior avoided talking publicly about their parents' painful past. But in this new book, they finally shared their memories openly about the love, the laughter, and the heartbreak that shaped their family. When Desi Arnaz Jr. looked back on the moment his parents told him they were divorcing, his words were simple but heavy. It wasn't good for anyone. Yet even through all the chaos, one thing remained clear. They all loved each other deeply. After the divorce, Lucille married comedian Gary Morton in 1961 and found stability again. But the love between her and Desi never fully disappeared. Their children saw that even when the marriage ended, the connection didn't. Now, decades later, Desi Arnaz Jr. is finally speaking about his father, not as a Hollywood icon, but as a man, flawed, brilliant, and human. And through his words, we see the truth behind one of television's most beloved couples. A story of love, loss, and the complicated bond that never truly faded. What part of Desi Arnaz Jr.'s story surprised you the most? His early fame, or what he revealed about his father? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more incredible stories from Hollywood's fascinating history. See you next time!